So I get a request to watch a Mohanlal film. You guys know I'm a fan of Mohanlal. Little did I know that I was going to be watching Mohanlal in a spaghetti western. So, what can I tell you? I mean, let me explain something and why I love doing this, okay? So, 2 years ago, I watched Sholay, right? Everyone's telling me classic film, you got to watch it, Big B, right? And then I'm watching it and I'm going, my God, this is a homage to Once Upon a Time in the West. I had no idea about that. Same thing with Barfi. I watched Barfi with Ranbir Kapoor, one of my favorite films I've seen over the last 3 years. It's a tribute to silent cinema. Didn't know that. Now I get a film recommendation from, and this is a new Maniac because I do not recognize this handle at 1334 CAS, KAS. And they recommended the 19, and you guys know how I feel about 1990 cinema. Thazhvaram. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The H is silent, I assume. Thazhvaram with Mohanlal. And it is a Sergio Leone spaghetti western, a Clint Eastwood man with no name western. And I was shocked by it. And I'm like, wow, this is not what I was expecting. So before I get to the review, and there's not a lot, so it'll be quick, let me give you a few movie maniac factoids. So I did research on this. There's not a lot about the making of this, but a couple of factoids. It's a second collaboration between the director Bharathan and writer M.T. Vasudevan Nair, and their first collaboration was 1988's Vaishali. The landscapes, which were beautiful, by the way, were in Palakkad, and they created a Western atmosphere, Western motif, like Death Valley. It really had that feel to it. And then finally, when it was released, it it was very slow box office. It wasn't blowing people away, and then it ended up becoming a cult classic. And a lot of people say it's Mohanlal's best performance. Now, I do not agree with. I really liked him in this, but it wasn't his best performance. I mean, I've said a lot that I find some of his roles are one note. And again, no criticism. And this was one note, but the note was revenge. Okay? So that's it on facts. Very low on facts, not a lot written about it. So let's get right to the review. Okay, so this let's get into the story. The story is, I mean, one of the simpler stories out of all the films I've seen. A guy, a quiet guy, gets all his money stolen and his wife killed. The wife he married, if I understood the subtitles, and again, I don't know if subtitles are right, died the day they got married. She got killed. And it was his best friend that took the money and killed her. And he is seeking revenge against this guy. That's the story. Now, I gave you no background, and that's my fault. So I'm going to back up. But it's directed by Bharathan. It stars Mohanlal, who recently, well, I saw Spadikam, which was another old one. Drishyam 3, I just saw, and Patriot, I just saw. Salim Ghouse, who was a voice in The Lion King. I don't know who he played. Sumaltha, Sumaltha? I don't know if you pronounce that right. Who was in Jana Gana Mana. Anju, who was also in Spadikam, and Sankaradi. Um, okay, so again, the story, I gave you the story. That is the story. It's his quest for vengeance. And it becomes a cat and mouse game between him, and his character's name is Bala, and his friend who is named Raju. And it's the cat and mouse between them of who's going to kill who. But the thing that blew me away, and I said this right from now, I didn't research this till after I watched it. Okay, so the opening scene is him walking through this kind of bleak landscape, and he's wearing, listen, I'm going to call it a shawl. I don't know what you call it. It's like a big blanket that he's wearing. But they also, the music was very Clint Eastwood, Sergio Leone, because there was even harmonica. So as I'm watching him, I'm remembering Clint Eastwood with his poncho. He always had that green poncho, which, by the way, was Clint Eastwood's poncho for real. That was his. And that's, to me, what that blanket represented. So I knew, well, I didn't know. I got a feeling this was going to be a Western. Not set, in the West, but it was definitely going to be a Western. And it absolutely was. Because he doesn't have a ton of dialogue in this. He's very quiet, like the man with no name. It's in the flashier role is definitely his friend, the bad guy. So he's going through. Now there was something that happened, and I was confused about it because it's non-linear. They jump back and forth, and you're not sure what time period in. Like there was two scenes that threw me off. The first scene, no dialogue for like 12 minutes. Then he meets this guy who I don't know who he was, and he ends up stabbing him, killing him right there, just over and over again, stabbing him. So I couldn't figure out who that was. So then he ends up at this house in the middle of nowhere with a father, a daughter, and this guy Raju. Now you don't see Raju right away. You hear about him because he's been tracking him down. Bala's been tracking this guy down, but you don't see him yet. And the daughter's really nice. You think it's going to be maybe a love interest, and the father, and they kind of he kind of ingratiates himself with them, and they let him have some tea and stuff like that. And Raju ends up coming back, and there's and they have a fight scene where Bala gets hurt pretty bad. And apparently, I did find this kind of funny. There's not enough room in the house to take this guy who got his head bashed in and bring him inside. No, they put him on the outside steps for a big chunk of this movie. A big chunk of the movie, he's sitting right there. Well, because he's so vulnerable, this guy Raju wants to kill him before he gets killed because the intentions are made to each other as soon as they connect. And it's very convenient because at some point he's strangling him and someone walks out and he's got to stop, and then he's got an axe, and so whatever. um and this guy who wants total revenge on him also wants to protect the father and the daughter. And so you also see flashbacks where they were friends and he was covering up for him for certain things. And you meet, I think her name was Raji. That's who he ended up marrying. Because this girl that's kind of helping him reminds him of her. And that's what I mean about the flashbacks. They jump back and forth. Because there was a scene towards the beginning where the cops go after Raju. So you're like, oh, he called the cops at this house. Well, that was a flashback, but it didn't register that way, like because it was weird. It's a weird way they did the flashbacks, but it was very. I don't want to say avant-garde because that's not true, but it was very cinematic the way they did it with the flashbacks because they were short, they were almost hallucinatory, but it's a very it's a pretty quiet film. And what it's doing is it's just the whole film is building tension to a final confrontation where one of them's going to die. You don't know which one, but one of them's going to die. And they do a great job of building that tension. Because again, Mohanlal doesn't, not a lot of dialogue, really. I mean, when they do the flashbacks, a couple of the flashbacks, different person, right? Happy, in love, right? Then this guy just bent on revenge. Wants his money, wants revenge. And in the end, he gets his revenge. And that is the story. Now, original? Nope. In fact, it's very much a takeoff of The Man with No Name. High Plains Drifter. That's what it really reminded me of. So the story I gave a 5 because it's not original. Doesn't mean I didn't like it. I did, but not an original story. Performances. These are not. None of these performances are flashy, and they're not meant to be, except for his buddy. He was definitely the flashier role out of everybody. Mohanlal was just super intense for 80% of this movie. And he wants to kill this guy, but now he gets his head bashed in. He's vulnerable, so he can't do what he wants to do, and he's got to protect them and himself while he's lying out there on the stoop because he can't go inside. Okay, again, a big chunk of the film, he's just on the front step, which I found funny. And the young lady, and she was lovely too. She was lovely, like a real. I don't mean like a Bollywood, like Ashwara or Kareena Kapoor, or even Katrina Kaif. These beautiful Bollywood. She was just like a lovely, real woman. Does that make sense? You know what I'm talking about? But she was good, and you could see that she was starting to like him, and he was starting to like her. But in the end, after he gets his revenge, he can't be with her. And he walks away, and it's like it's like, did they set up a sequel because he walks away alone? And you can see the look on her face too. But the performances were for the type of film it was. It was good. I gave him a 7. I don't think it was one of his best performances ever. I just didn't see it that way. And I will also say that the quality of the print that I saw on YouTube, I was a 4K restoration. It was beautiful. It didn't have that sound. Now, the fight scenes, they're missing each other by a foot and a half. Oh, I should. There were a few. I didn't. There weren't like a lot of scenes because there wasn't a lot that happened. But there was 2 scenes in particularly that I really liked that kind of stood out for me. The first was their first confrontation when Raju finally comes back and he understands what's going on, right? And they go out in this field with this like high foliage. It's really neat the way they shot it. And it's a showdown. It's a Western showdown, except they're going to kick each other and do their fists and all this other stuff. But the way they shot it, I really, and the music too, was very, like I said, very Sergio Leone. So that scene was really neat. And the other scene that just stood out for me, the great scene, and this is the climax of the film, they get in a big fight, they're beating each other up. Well, he gets the best of Raju. Now he drags Raju into this hut or house or whatever it is. I don't know. And earlier in the film, he's using explosives for something like not TNT, but they look like big, thick firecrackers. But big explosions. So Mohanlal drags this guy in. And he's out of it, right? And he's got this look on his face, and he just takes one of these sticks, lights it, drops it right next to the bed where the guy is, walks out, and of course you see him here, see the house in the background. All of a sudden the house just completely explodes, and he just walks quietly. That was really cool. And I will say there was one other scene, and it was right before this scene. Final confrontation, final gunfight. And so they're on opposite sides, and Raju starts throwing these explosives at him, and he's just walking towards him, not even reacting to the explosions that are happening around him, and then comes in and kicks him. So that was cool too. So those were the scenes that really stuck out for me. Now, as far as the music goes, there wasn't much, but there were. Now, I want to preface this. The background score was amazing because it was so on point for the Western motif they were trying to do. It really was. It was really well done. But they did have three, in Malayalam films, they're not big Bollywood numbers. They're just not like that. But the first song is the song through the opening credits, where all he's doing is walking across this terrain, and you hear the music, you hear the harmonica, and you understand that this guy's on some kind of quest. You don't know what the quest is, but you know he's on a quest. Second song is a flashback about his love story with his wife, Raji. And that's a nice song. And the third song, and I wasn't quite sure about this, but it seemed to me like he was falling in love with Kachudi, who's the woman. And there's this festival, and it flashes back to Raji, but it's a light song, and that's why I thought maybe because he kept equating her with Raji, like I felt like he was falling in love with her. So the music, the numbers were fine, but the incidental music, I really liked, and I gave that a 7. And my final verdict of this Western, and I'm going to call it a Western because that's what it was. I'm going to give it a 7. I'm going to give it a 7. There were times in the film where nothing was happening, and I get why they were building tension. But that he was on those front steps for a long time in this film, maybe a little too long, and it wasn't a long film either. But I think they could have probably cut that up a little bit. And the damage that he sustained falling off the cliff that the guy pushed him over was a little. Now maybe it was a ploy, maybe he was pretending. I don't know, but that's why. But I did like it. I mean, it kept me right in it for the whole thing. And like I said, you just want to know who's going to die. You knew one of them was going to die, but who was it going to be? So that's what I think of that. What did you guys think about it? What did you know it was a Western? Did you understand that? Did you catch that? I'm sure you did. You guys, you maniacs are smart out there. But let me know what you guys think if you liked it. Do you agree that that was Mohanlal's best performance? I don't know, man. I thought he was better in Drishyam, the first one, than this. But anyway, that's it. Listen, do me a favor if you haven't already. Please subscribe, hit the notification button, hit the like button. Again, I'll tell you one more time. It's important that you really hit like and you leave a comment because it affects the algorithm. You can just say hi. You can say thanks. You can say your hair's awful. Shut up. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Bad press is press. Do you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying. All right. Hey, does anyone know when Toxic is coming out, by the way? I thought it was coming out in June. It sure doesn't look like it's going to. So if you know, let me know, will you? Because I want to go to the movies to see that. So anyway, that's it. We'll talk to you soon. And John Talks Indian Cinema with a movie review, a trailer reaction, or a song reaction. I had one of those Clint Eastwood hats. I have the poncho too. I should have worn it for the review. But anyway, all right, that's it. We'll talk to you soon. Wah, 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 wah.